What's up, my friends, and welcome into the All Nittany Lion podcast here on PHLY. Well, not exactly. We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict this week, so we will be live at 4 p.m. on Thursday this week with our friends Jason Cabinda and Adam Telefaro. But joining me for a little Penn State college football talk is my friend Jamie Lynch. You know him from the PHLY Phillies podcast, PHLY Eagles, PHLY Bet365. You pretty much know Jamie from, you've seen Jamie on every show there is to be on. Maybe with the exception of Flyers. Have you done the Flyers show yet?
I have not. No, I have not gone over there yet. But I am far less athletic than your normal co-hosts, so I can guarantee you a lesser athleticism than Jason and Adam.
Yeah,
so I bring that to the table.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
I bog the athleticism conversation down myself. So here we are today. Just the two of us. Again, we'll be back live Thursday for our regularly scheduled program. But along with all of the things that Jamie does here at PHLY, he is a college football nerd like myself.
Sicko.
And so I wanted to have a conversation today with somebody who loves the game of college football, but isn't involved with Penn State and isn't a Penn State fan. So that's why the title of today's show is The Outside Looking In. I want to get Jamie's thoughts on three players in particular for Penn State, three of the main Penn State players, and what the outside college football world, what their perspective of those three players are.
Sure.
So today we're going to talk about Tyler Warren, Drew Allar, and Abdul Carter, who I believe are all three going to be fairly high draft picks in this April's draft. So let's start with Tyler Warren.
I mean, when you think about it, Penn State's probably going to have five guys go in the top like 110.
Probably.
James Franklin cranks out pros,
I think that's a really fair assessment, and it's something we'll probably dive a little bit deeper into when we get into it. March, April conversation.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It is, considering the fact that people like to say that this team sucks and everything sucks and everything's awful. Let's start with Tyler Warren. 67 catches, 808 yards, 5 touchdowns. Tyler Warren is the straw that stirs the drink for Penn State football. Yeah. He is their catalyst. A great run game, a good offensive line, good quarterback play, but Tyler Warren is the everything X factor for Penn State, to the point where there's conversations of him having an outside chance to being one of the at least semifinalists for the Heisman this year.
Crazy.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I will say this, to have a tight end in the conversation is pretty darn impressive. I want to get your thoughts, as I said, the outside looking in perspective. This is a guy who's gone over 100 receiving yards 3 times this year, has 67 catches, leads all tight ends across the nation, and basically leads the Big Ten in every statistical category for the tight end position. From somebody who isn't a Penn State fan but loves the game, what's the view of a player like Tyler Warren and what he means to a program like Penn State?
I mean, he is a massive human being. 6'6". He's tough. He'll go make tough catches. The guy's a stud. I think the USC game and the overtime thriller was like his national kind of coming out party. Really put himself on the map there. I think he's going to be the second tight end off the board, which is to say he's probably an early second roundish pick, maybe middle of the second round at worst case. I think this kid's got everything you want in a tight end. He's got athleticism, he's got size, he's got hands. He's the whole package. He's a really, really nice player. And you do have to wonder, Eagles and tight end, Dallas Goedert is no spring chicken anymore. I think offensive line is probably where they patch first, but you have such a dearth of talent on the Eagles roster, you might be able to supplement it with tight end. So if he's there like late in the second round, do the Eagles consider him? Because I would be all in for that.
I think you run to the podium if he's there late in the second. This is a guy who has the ability to line up in the slot, has the ability to line up on the line, has the ability to line up as an H-back, and you've seen it. They use him in some funky packages with Penn State. Now, Andy Kotelnicki's done a really good job. It's a little bit different in college than it is in the NFL, of course, but you recognize who the best player on the field is for you. And for, I would say, 95% of the games this year, it's been Tyler Warren. Now, to an extent where, you could take this for what it is, but Heisman voting, some have him as high as 6th.
So I looked it up. The last time a tight end has won the Heisman was 1949.
That sounds about right.
So to be in the conversation is, an honor in itself.
Sure. And listen, I think that we can all come to the agreement that the final 3 is more or less secured. Ashton Gency's going to be there. Travis Hunter is going to be there. And then it's really a matter of who the third guy is. I think it's Cam Ward.
I would think it's Cam Ward, yeah.
But to be in that conversation, because here's the list of the top 10. It's a two-way player in Travis Hunter. It's a running back. And then here's the list. quarterback, Tyler Warren, quarterback.
Yeah.
We know what the Heisman is. It's a quarterback award. To be in that conversation is pretty darn impressive.
It is pretty damn cool. I think he's going to be a really good pro. You know, like
I do too.
Like Penn State has an unbelievable ability to churn out pros. You know, overall good program. But their real ability is taking guys from Saturdays and turning them into Sunday players. And I think Tyler Warren's going to be one of them.
Especially for a team that really has struggled with the wide receiver position this year. You know, it's pretty well documented on this show that, you know, how Harrison Wallace has been fine. Amari Evans has been fine. Julian Fleming's kind of coming into his own. But your best player, your best pass catcher, your best probably everything is Tyler Warren.
Yeah, he's a hell of a player. I'd love to see him in Eagles green.
Now, one of the guys that, you know, has to get the football to Tyler Warren and probably has benefited from Tyler Warren, as I believe that it's a symbiotic relationship between the two, is the quarterback Drew Allar. Now, Drew Allar to me, Jamie, is one of the most wildly inconsistent, comparable quarterbacks when it comes to the next level conversation, like draft stock conversation. I've seen people talk about him as a first-round quarterback. I've seen people talk about him as a late second, early third-round quarterback. I probably fall somewhere in the middle where I do believe there's upside to him to being a late first-round pick. But I would probably imagine he slots somewhere in the 35 to 50 range come draft day. What's your thoughts on Drew Allar as a college quarterback and then projecting as a pro?
I think he's a guy that's definitely worth a risk on. I mean, another huge person, you know, 6'5", toughness. He bounced back from that knee injury versus Wisconsin this year and had Ohio State on the deck. And that told me a lot about him as like a competitor. It was like, I'm not missing the Ohio State game. I'm getting back out there because that's the biggest game of the year. Didn't have his best game against Ohio State, but nobody really did.
It was just I don't think he was 100% healthy.
Yeah, and he was playing hobbled in that game for sure. But to me, you know, I've seen him as low as 99th in the draft.
That's way too low.
Getting drafted right around Singleton, his backfield mate. To me, he still has the world potential tied to him. So I think if you're drafting, you would like to have seen a little bit more to this point. The biggest thing to me this year was his completion percentage skyrocketed.
Yep.
It was like 56, I think, his first year, 58, and it's all the way up to almost 72% this year. So credit to the OC and him getting on the same page, understanding the offense. That's really encouraging. He kind of has all the physical intangible or the physical tools that you want in that guy. He's got a huge arm, big dude, tough,
better maneuverability than maybe his stats project.
Sure.
Maneuvers the pocket well. You saw now granted it was Purdue this past weekend, but you saw a run where he threw a body, hit contact, and picked up another 10 yards. He's a decent runner. I wouldn't say he's an electric runner, but he's a decent runner.
He's a surprising runner. There was a couple times this year, because I've watched almost every Penn State game. There was a couple points where I was like, oh.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like, oh, I didn't think he had that in the bag. I've seen him being drafted behind Carson Beck, which to me is insulting.
Yeah,
I would take Drew Allar over Carson Beck. Nussmeier is kind of around the range I'm seeing him go.
I think the upside on Aller is better on him than him too.
That's what I keep going back to with Aller is like I think mentally he processes the game well. To me, the Mr. Miyagi pocket awareness and like not seeing what's directly in front of you and kind of sensing what's around you is the hardest thing at the next level. And I think he's shown you a pretty good pocket awareness in college. So to me, he has a lot of the things you really like to see. I'd be shocked too if he fell into like the late third or something. I think he's absolutely worthy of a second round pick. You don't draft him to be your day one starter type of guy. He's a guy you want to bring in with a vet, give him that year or two to kind of process the league and get into it. Because a lot of these kids are just set up for failure.
Well, I'll be honest,
jump.
I'm not sure. So guys are going to be thrust into starting roles as high draft picks. I'm not sure how many day one starters there are in this court.
Yeah, even Cam Ward. Like I'd be all about
group.
giving everybody a year.
Sure.
I think that's a lost art in the NFL because there's so much quarterback desperation that they don't give kids enough time. Like Bryce Young, should he have been starting day one with a bad line? Like probably not. It probably would have been better for him to take a year, process it. So I think Aller is a high upside gamble. And I'll be honest with you, if he was like in the third round and the Philadelphia Eagles are there, like to me, he's just a great guy to get in your system, develop. You can always trade him if he does show flashes of something. I'm fairly bullish on Allar.
I think his floor is high. I think that's what is so serviceable with him is, as you mentioned, all those things. He's third in pass yards, yards per pass. He's fifth in completion percentage. He was fifth in pass rating as of this past weekend. His floor is high. I think he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. I don't know, is he going to be the flashiest of players? No. Is he going to be that highest upside guy? No, but I think the floor is very, very high with him. Kind of an understanding of what the type of quarterback that he is, and he's grown up a lot over the last couple of
he got a lot
years.
better from sophomore to junior year, and as a number one high school quarterback. Now, I think the thing that could maybe affect him, fair or unfair, is like the Penn State quarterback PTSD.
It's fine.
There's a real parallel there to Christian Hackenberg. Both were number one high school recruit.
And if they're going to be second round picks, you're in the same time frame.
I wonder if the Penn State quarterback thing does.
Drew Allar is a much better quarterback than Christian Hackenberg.
Sure, absolutely. But I wonder if that does affect how teams view him a little bit.
Yeah, 25 touchdowns to 2 picks last year. And I know the interceptions have gone up a little bit. He's been a better quarterback this year than he was last year. Taking more shots, being more assertive. I think that this kid's kind of starting to scratch the surface of what he can be as a pro quarterback. I'd love to see what his ceiling becomes, because I think I know what the floor is.
Who's a perfect spot for him is Russell Wilson. Has a year or two left.
Talking about Pittsburgh?
Yeah, somebody with that vet that's an expiring contract where he can learn something from and not be rushed. Is a perfect situation for Allar, because I do believe if things go right and things click for him, he could be potentially, a guy.
Sure. So
a real guy.
2 guys there that we talked about that maybe has first round upside. I'm not sure either of them do end up going in the first round. I would say if I had to pick one of the other, it would be Allar, just because he's a quarterback. But one guy that we know definitively is going to be a first round pick. And I wanted to finish with this guy because you have followed this guy's career for a while now.
I saw him in high school.
Is Abdul Carter, a guy who has all of the athletic ability in the world, one of the best athletes on the field on any given weekend. But what to me is the most impressive is he's a linebacker by nature who has transitioned to playing the defensive line position. He's an edge rusher now. Took a couple of games for him to kind of get his feet underneath him a little bit, but you can tell that Abdul Carter is just better than you wherever he lines up. And to me at this point, he has solidified himself probably as a top 15 pick.
I think top 10
in the NFL draft. And you're even more bullish than that if you say top 10. He's an edge rusher now. He can drop back and play a little linebacker. He's going to kind of follow the Micah Parsons trajectory where he's going to be much more
I think
edge rusher.
That's the comp there, right? You're hoping you're getting a Micah Parsons. I've known Abdul, well, not personally, but I've watched Abdul dating back to high school. I've spoken to his father once or twice. Comes from a great family, hardworking kid. Nobody outworks this guy. And just a wrecking ball this year. 8.5 sacks already. He's forcing fumbles. He's defending passes. He's an edge rusher that can probably drop and cover some tight ends. He's kind of a defensive coordinator's dream type of player. This kid is just... He's a stud. If it's not for quarterback desperation, I want to say he could possibly be a top 5 pick.